Hey everyone, welcome to the 399th episode of the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and your co-host,
Kevin Toffel.
And we have a lot of things going to be happening for you today. It is Thanksgiving if you are in the U.S. and you are listening on Thursday, the day it comes out. If so, happy Turkey Day to you. If not, have a big meal and celebrate with family if you'd like. I don't know.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Happy IoT Podcast Release Day. Woo! All right. We are going to be talking about our gift guide. That is a big segment of the show. We're also going to be talking about the news from Amazon and the layoffs in the Madam A division and the conclusion that it has been a colossal failure. We're also going to be talking about a new device from Amazon. We've got a new gesture-based device, so we decided to talk a little bit about gestures in the smart home because they seem fun, but usually are confusing. The FIDO Alliance is working on some IoT stuff. We'll talk about that. We've got a new platform for bringing in some of your digital health data. We'll get a take on that. We've got new dev kits from T-Mobile, and I've actually got a new dev kit from Everactive sitting on my desk. We've got a new bulb from Wyze and a new Fire wallet to talk about. We're also going to hear from our sponsor, Arm. And then after that, instead of a guest, we'll dig into our gift guide picks and maybe some surprise, fun other ideas for you. But first, a message from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Silicon Labs. Silicon Labs is a leader in secure, intelligent wireless technology for a more connected world. Their integrated hardware and software platform, intuitive development tools, and robust support make them an ideal long-term partner in building advanced industrial, commercial, home, and life applications. Silicon Labs makes it easy for developers to solve complex wireless challenges throughout the product lifecycle and get to market quickly with innovative solutions that transform industries, grow economies, and improve lives. Learn more at scilabs.com. Okay, Kevin, the biggest story this week is, well...
It's a continuation of a story from last week.
Yeah, so we talked about, hey, y'all are all probably aware that the economy is getting a little dicey. And given inflation, concerns about the stock market, concerns about consumer spending going away, all of that, people are now... Tech companies especially are looking at their employee base and they're saying, no, we're seeing layoffs at Meta, Google, Twitter's got its own little thing happening, Microsoft, and Amazon. And Amazon, they have a plan to eliminate up to 10,000 jobs. And one of the biggest areas that's going to happen is, and I'm going to have to say the name. So everyone should take a moment to pause or shut down the mics on their Madam A devices. Okay, so one of the hardest hit areas is the Amazon Alexa voice assistant unit. A post on Business Insider, but everyone's linking to the Ars post because it's free and Business Insider costs money, gives the fact that, hey, these 10,000 jobs are going away. And they also call it a colossal failure that is on pace to lose $10 billion this year. That's not just the Madam A division. That is the entire worldwide digital group. So that lost $3 billion in the first quarter of 2022. The quote unquote vast majority of those losses are blamed on Alexa. It's apparently the double of the losses of any other division, and the report says the hardware team is on pace to lose $10 billion this year.
Wow.
Which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we have to say, oh my gosh, what does this mean? And there's a lot of questions out there. First off, Madam A is not going away. Someone asked me on Twitter, they were like, hey, should I not buy any more Madam A devices? No, you're fine.
No, get them on the cheap because they're still okay with losing money.
Other people were like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. So let's talk about why that's a lot of money. And then let's talk about what the heck this means. So Jeff Bezos, the former CEO of Amazon, someone pitched him this idea back in when exactly it was, 2012, 2013. And the first device came out in 2014. It was an invite only. It was one of the initial invite only things that Amazon did. You know, they were like, hey, we have this cool device. Let's see what it is. And after they launched it, it did pretty well. And Bezos really had a lot of faith in voice becoming this next big platform. And I did too. I don't know if you remember, Kevin, but when the first Amazon Echo came out, I was keen on it. And you were like, why are you buying this $100 device?
Yeah, because I didn't see the value at the time of launch.
Right. It was like, hey, you can talk to this thing. It'll play your music. It will, I think set timers. And I already had by that time, because I was the IoT reporter, a home full of smart gadgets. And Amazon didn't introduce that functionality until later, but I saw this as a way to talk to my house and I needed it. I also at the time had a small child who loved playing music. So I loved the freedom a device like this gave her to play whatever she wanted just by talking to something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I saw all these things. I said, hey, cool. And this isn't just like, ooh, Stacy's awesome. This is to explain how voice in the smart home became so inextricably linked and why Jeff Bezos thought he was into something so big, which explains why Amazon put so much money into this. I talked to Charlie Kindle, who was the former head of Alexa Smart Home Division. And there's different divisions of Alexa. There's the smart home, there's information, there's skills, there's all kinds of divisions. So he was in charge of all the smart home stuff. And he was in charge of that from the very beginning up until when he left in 2018. So he's been gone a long time. But when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, I started out with like 7 people and I stole a couple of people from other teams and I pitched to Jeff. I was like, hey, we're going to have about 50 to 60 people on this team. And we're going to make the smart home big. And Jeff was like, you're thinking way too small. And he told Charlie to think bigger. We want a piece on every board. And Charlie ended up the end of that first year, 2015, having up to 200 people on his team. And from there, it only expanded. And a lot of the people who are now getting laid off, he says, are part of the annotation group. So a lot of those people, and those are people who just were in the early years hired to annotate people's utterances. So that's the people listening to what you say and saying, did we get it right? And helping train the natural language processing algorithm. So that's not all of the people, obviously.
Right.
But the idea from the very beginning was Jeff was like, holy cow. And I shouldn't keep calling him Jeff like I know him. Jeff Bezos was like, holy cow, this is going to be huge. We need to own this. And I think he was committing, like, call it a cardinal sin, but a cardinal mistake in voice, which is thinking that voice is the platform instead of just the user interface.
I was just going to say, this comes down to a distinction between either a product and a platform or a product and a feature. I assume the goal at Amazon was, and still is, build the platform and then we'll figure out the monetization later. Well, later is now and they haven't figured it out because I think it's more of a feature than a product.
I would say instead of a feature, it's a way to interact and you can't really, just like touchscreens, they're ubiquitous everywhere. We've come up with a common way of interacting with them and linking things back to it. So it's really hard to say, I guess it almost feels interchangeable, even though it is really hard because you have to have the way to like say, this is what I'm saying. You're translating my utterances and this is how you decide what to do. Because obviously when I say turn on a light, I have to have some way of integrating. Am I talking about my Hue lights? Am I talking about my Lutron lights? It's not like Amazon automatically knows, right?
Right. Go back a second to what you just said about the touchscreen. You're right. It's another interface to some other device or service, or in this case, apps. And, the thing is, the touchscreen, I would say, you can argue it, but I would say is the best current interface for, say, a smartphone and for many other devices. No doubt about it. But it's not as a transactional thing as voice is because there are so many apps that you can do so many things with that you're constantly touching that touchscreen. I mean, how would you interact with your top 10 most used apps if you weren't constantly touching the touchscreen? Whereas voice is not there yet. There are not that many or a breadth of apps that need it or make the experience better for it to make money.
You don't make money on a touchscreen. You make money on the hardware built out around the touchscreen, right?
Well, the apps.
And the app
store. Right.
So then you got to say, okay, if you want to make money on voice, what does that look like? But I think that's actually the wrong question. I think the true value that these folks have is actually making money on a digital assistant. And I think that's where people got lost. Google and Amazon, they were like, we're going to build an OS for the smart home. And Amazon's reportedly frustrated because, they get billions of utterances, but everyone's like, set a timer or play a song. And if you think about it, playing a song is an app situation.
Yes.
You're telling it to, and you're hoping that it plays Amazon's music, right? But most of the investment that we've seen from Amazon has been in two types of categories. One is like the device ecosystem, right? So getting everybody all in on Alexa. And Charlie Kendall actually said that actually worked for a while. It's less so now because there's so many more devices, but initially people did shop on Amazon to buy smart home devices that worked with Matalme. And it was making money, not like lots of money, but it was making money. He also told me that at the time, Amazon's hardware for interacting with voice, so the Echoes, were sold not at a loss, but they were, low margin devices and higher margin on some of the fancier devices. So the losses here could be in all of the other crap that Amazon has built around this, trying to figure out how to make money, right? So think about the Alexa microwave or things like that, or services. But Amazon really has two options. You make money on the hardware that you're selling with this stuff, or you make money on services tied to having this platform in the home. And the platform isn't voice, it's the Alexa's digital assistant. And that's why Amazon's been investing a lot in like all the AI. So you see things like Hunches, you see the investment in Matter, which is going to get them a lot of sensor data that they can parse and then take insights from about like, hey, is someone moving around in the home? Are they awake? Are they laying on the floor? Did they lock their doors? And that gets closer, I think, to things that people would actually pay for. But I think that's a much slower growth path.
Well, not only that, it's a very, I want to almost say one-dimensional growth path, because Amazon can't replicate what Google and Apple offer with their voice assistants. But they can replicate some of it, but most of it they cannot, because they don't have a smartphone platform. Yes, they have a smart home platform. Even their tablets are really running Android. I get more value out of voice from the other services because of this. It's not just, I'm not tied into Amazon services with those, right? I can use apps, I can use Google services, I can use other things. I just don't feel like they have enough to offer to make the money.
They have been the most proactive about developing an understanding of what's happening in the home. So what we love to call context.
Sure.
I think that they've spent a lot of time on that.
And it may pay off, yeah. It may pay off. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom by any means.
I think, though, the challenge is something like Matter may have hurt them because now Google and Apple have access to all the same sensors that Amazon might have, right? There's no need to focus only on Amazon's thing. And it may make more sense to go to Google because Google does have the smartphone and can tell me when I ask my appointments. But the other thing is, I don't know if that's the $1 billion revenue stream that everyone hopes it's going to be, right? It's hard to get people to pay for subscriptions. Security has been one thing. I think elder care might be another. It's especially hard to get people to pay for subscriptions when you start off giving it to people for free.
Exactly. It's kind of like they've walked down this road and she'll come back, make a U-turn now and start charging for things via the Echo devices that were free. I personally am not going to pay for things like that. They've got to be so much better than the competition.
Yeah, and I look at things like, Google now will call ahead for me and try to make a reservation. I don't know if you've ever tried those features.
Yep.
They actually have worked for me in the past. And I look at things like that and I'm like, that shouldn't be free. For privacy reasons, I mean, you should train me to be like, oh, Google will call and do this for me. And I know it's hard because you've got to get enough training data to make it worthwhile, which means you need to incent people to use it. And then you gatekeep it. So I feel like there's a fundamental business problem. You either have to do it, and even if you get a bunch of people doing it for free and kind of basically training it for you, you still need a lot of people on the back end to make sure it works. And that's expensive. And I think that's the other lesson here with voice is getting good voice and building a good digital assistant is expensive.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. But there's also another key difference here. Google and Apple don't try or need to try to monetize their voice assistants nearly as much as Amazon.
And that's because
they're going to make money off of other things that Amazon can't provide.
Yeah, but Google is looking at search and seeing their search revenue. I know it's still a good bajillion dollars, but they're seeing that decline.
Oh, yeah. They need to diversify. They've needed to for years.
I think everyone should be looking for, I'm going to call it the right model for a digital assistant. And I definitely want to separate voice from the smart home success. And I want to separate voice from the success of a digital assistant, even though I think you do need to be able to talk to your digital assistant. And actually, we can talk about a new device that Amazon is having this week.
With a subscription.
With a subscription. Well, let's talk about this because it kind of ties into some of this. So back in September, Amazon said they announced a bunch of devices. And one of those devices was the Halo Rise. And if y'all remember, the Halo Rise is the Amazon lamp. It's an alarm clock and it is a sleep tracker, kind of like, so it combines, I think of as like Philips has a sunrise lamp. Everyone has sunrise lamps now that kind of gradually wake you up with like light getting brighter and brighter. It does that, but it also combines the features of like the Google Nest Hub Gen 2 that has the sleep tracking Soli radar in it that tracks your sleep based on your movements. And this doesn't use radar, but it does track your sleep based on movements. And then it ties that back into the Halo subscription service. And if you have that subscription, it will actually determine the best time of day to wake you up and then wake you up at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for this, they want a $3.99 Halo subscription each month. They also want you to pay $139.99 for the lamp. That lamp does include 6 months of the Halo membership for free, which includes other things. If you'd like, there's an app and you can like watch workout videos and things like that.
I suspect this is not being sold at a loss because when I look at what's inside this and what this does, $139.99 seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, it's really expensive. You can buy a sunrise lamp for like $30 or $40.
Yep.
It's granted, it's like a Chinese sunrise lamp, but yeah. And the Google Nest Hub Max, I think, is actually that's $99.
Correct.
So anyway, I don't think this is being sold at a loss. I do think it ties to like, this is an interesting, like this doesn't even have voice. You can actually talk to Alexa and then it will tell the lamp what to do. So it's tied into that interface, but it's almost like this standalone device that is actually thinking on its own. And things like saying, hey, this is the right moment to wake you up based on your current sleep patterns. I think that's valuable, but if that's the only reason you have this lamp, that and you can tell Madame A to like set your alarm, I guess yes, and it will talk to it. I think one of the reasons why it's so hard to sell a compelling digital assistant is because you're going to have to pay a subscription for the digital assistant, but you're also going to have all this gear that works with that proprietary digital assistant.
Yep.
And I know we talk about Matter being amazing, but Matter is not going to solve all of that.
No.
Matter will bring more devices into that digital assistant's experience, but it's not going to solve this underlying tie between talking to Alexa and being able to use her to make your life better.
Right. And as you said, there's no microphone on this, nor a camera. So if you want to have it do something like a routine or something like that, you need other Echo devices in your house to kind of control it, do something, etc.
Yes. So that's kind of this device signals a lot of development costs for Amazon. It's tied only into their ecosystem, and I don't think it's going to sell that well.
I do not either. I even wonder how much the Halo itself, the Halo band, and that subscription is doing.
I'd never see them in the wild. I think I've seen one in the wild, and that's because I live in freaking Seattle, so it was probably an Amazon employee.
No, I don't leave the house, so I haven't seen any.
Yeah. So that's the thoughts on
voice. Let's talk gestures.
Yeah.
Let's talk about other nebulous things.
This is even more nebulous. So we threw this in here because Aqara has a new device they call the Cube Controller. It is the Cube T1 Pro. It is $22.99, and it is a dice.
A single large die, yes.
That has 6 sides, and basically it's going to show up as 6 wireless buttons or 6 motion sensors, and you can tie each side to a different smart home device or scene. If you flip it to side 1, you're going to trigger a movie time scene, for example, if you've programmed it. And if you flip it to side 2, you might have a good night routine. I don't know. Or you might turn off your lights. Here gets the problem.
Yeah. User interface.
Yeah. So I played with the Nanoleaf. A friend of mine had it. I didn't have it. The Nanoleaf made like a 12-sided
dodecahedron, maybe?
Dodecahedron? Why are we back on the dodecahedron?
I don't know if I got that right or not, but that's the first word that came to mind.
It was a 12-sided die, and it was fun.
Critical
and it
hit.
lit up, and you'd turn it, and like different Nanoleaf scenes would happen.
But how did you know?
But you didn't. I mean, 12 is a lot. Like I have these flick buttons. I have 3 of them, and each button has like 3 different scene possibilities based on double clicks and clicks. And you know what? I get 1 button equals 1 scene in my mind. And I'm always surprised when I do this. I'm like, oh, I forgot I programmed that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's with the button. It has a label on it. So I at least sort of have a clue.
This has very small, I don't know what they would call the numbers of a dice on the corners. You have a 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 6 dot. How does somebody know? And to be fair, I'm looking at the Philips Hue tap dial switch.
I was going to say the tap dial also gives you many options.
The tap dial switch is the same. It's got 4 buttons on its round overall button, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dots, and a rotary dial for dimming. I'm okay with it there because it's the context of it. It sits on my office desk. I am the only one who uses it. I programmed it. Nobody's going to use it. My wife does come into this room sometimes before the lights are on or need to be on. I told her just hit the 1 button and that's it. She knows the one thing she needs out of it. So maybe I'm being too harsh on the Cube controller, but
I mean, from a price perspective, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Like $23, 6 potential things. It's fun. I think you could program 6 different lighting scenes and basically like, hey, y'all, want to roll the dice for our dinner lighting?
Yeah, you could buy like 5 of these and play Smart Home Yahtzee and see what happens.
But I do think these are fun. I don't know if they're real useful.
I mean, some people may like them. I don't.
I love them. I think they're fun. But I also feel like by the way, you do need an Aqara hub for this. So this is not.
Right. I think the difference to me as I, again, look at the Hue tap dial switch, the buttons they never move. They're always in the same spot. Whereas here, this dice, it works based on what is showing on the top of the cube.
Or what side you tap.
Or what side you tap. Or, you can even shake it and do other things too to make things happen. So there's a lot going on there, and it's changing because that's how it works. You physically change the orientation of it to make something happen. Here, I don't change the orientation. It's always 1 is in the 1 spot, 2 is in the 2 spot, etc. So I don't know.
It feels like a gimmick, a fun gimmick, but a gimmick.
Yeah.
Would I buy this as a nerdy DIY user? 100%. If I had the Aqara hub, which I don't, because it's more like if you have HomeKit, you're probably very familiar with this ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway. But yeah, it's not like your guest can come in and be like, oh, this is clearly the way I will turn on movie time. Okay. Let's talk about FIDO and security.
Yeah, I've actually been paying a lot of attention to FIDO, which is like the organization that tries to create like security and credentialing standards. If you've ever used like a YubiKey.
It's the Fast ID Identity Online Alliance. So basically, if you want to know what FIDO stands for.
There you go. Well, that explains it. Lately, I've been paying attention because they have been adding support or offering support for passkeys, which is a passwordless way to log into devices and websites. I actually just started using that for some other things that I'm doing, not IoT related at all. So I thought this was interesting that this week they announced they're having an Authenticate Virtual Summit focused on securing IoT. December 7th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. for those who are interested. What's interesting here is that they're a security standards type organization. And some of the things we're going to be talking about is how does FIDO fit into the IoT? How do we do device onboarding securely? So these are things that to some degree Matter helps with, like the onboarding and the security and provisioning of devices to do that securely. But there might be a better overall way or a way to glom onto that to make it safer for you to have those IoT devices in your home. So I'm curious to see what comes out of this.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'll keep an eye on because obviously authentication, and this is mostly about authentication, saying you are who you are and you have access to this thing, is really important in IoT, but equally important, especially in shared spaces for like devices that are shared among a bunch of people is being able to federate that like across like, what's the Microsoft sysadmin? No, not sysadmin. What's it called? Registry, Active Directory.
Active Directory. Ew.
Yeah. But it's basically like you have to create a seamless way to let people share and have access to things individual device level. And that's freaking hard. So I'm interested in this. All right. I'm also interested in this. And I'm curious to get your take because I don't know how many like fitness apps you use, but basically Google has released the Android Health Connect into public beta. And this is Health Connect is an Android app that's going to bring data from a bunch of different eligible health and fitness apps to the Health Connect platform. So yes, it's owned by Google, and it's going to bring in Fitbit, which is also owned by Google, data, Aura, which isn't, Flow. It'll bring stuff from MyFitnessPal and Peloton. Google had announced this back in May, but now it's actually out in beta. And I actually have a little fitness thing on my Android phone for all my because basically every connected fitness device I try, and I try a lot, they come with an app, right? You got your Peloton, it's got an app. You've got your Jax Jocks kettlebells. You've got all kinds of connected tempo and those kind of things. So I want to see all of that data get integrated easily in one place. And right now, like a couple of my devices have Fitbit integrations. Some of them don't. Some of them have Google Fit integrations. I also tend to use a lot of different apps. So
I do too. I use a lot of apps, and two things that stand out to me, maybe three actually. Google worked with Samsung on this, and because Samsung's had their Samsung Health app for ages, ever since they came out with their Tizen smartwatch. They've got experience here. The old Google Fit, this was basically a rebuild, in my opinion, of Google Fit, and in a much better way, at least for developers, because working with Google Fit or the Samsung Health, you had all these different API connections. Now Google says that we've got standardized data schemas for, a bunch of health metrics, and it's just a few lines of code to, get your health app to sync its data to the Health Connect app for Android. So this is kind of like them admitting that Fit just wasn't it and making things easier for developers. Now, how will it work in the future? How well will it be? I don't know.
I don't either, but I have high hopes. By the way, y'all, I'm just going to, because I already mentioned it, the Jax Jocks kettlebell. It's an adjustable smart kettlebell. Best Buy is having it on sale for $99.99. And normally this thing is $250. So
that's a good deal.
We're getting to our gift guide, and I wasn't going to tell you about Black Friday deals, but that's a smoking deal. And honestly, I am so tempted to get. I mean, like for $100, it's a good kettlebell. I play with it.
We dropped $99 on a dumb kettlebell, which we love, but
and it was adjustable, right?
It is adjustable, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, from like 8 to 45 pounds or something to that.
Yeah, and it goes from 6 to 42 pounds. And
does it connect to Health Connect?
It doesn't.
No. Does it connect to Apple Health? Because that's where all my data gets sucked into.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see.
Obviously, for people who don't track their health or just use a few apps, it is really nice to see everything, all the health data across different metrics in one single repository. So that way you can look at trends, you can see what things might be impacting your health in other areas. It's just tying all that data together to give you a much better holistic view.
And yes, it does integrate with Fitbit and HealthKit, Apple HealthKit, and the Apple Watch to measure heart rate and or steps. So, woo! That's enough about that.
Ooh.
Well, no, because like I have a Concept 2 rower and I have an old school Pilates machine, but there are now connected Pilates machines. If y'all are like me and really into Pilates, I have a reformer and reformers are expensive. They're like, I mean, a really low end reformer could be like $500, and higher end, fancier ones that you find in the studio can be like $3,000. I bought mine on Craigslist from a studio that was going out of business several years ago, and it was like $2,000. So got a smoking deal, but it was a lot of money. But now there are connected Pilates machines out there. There's actually 2 or 3, and they range from $2,500 to $5,000. And, if anyone wants to call me and have me try out their connected Pilates reformer, I'm happy to do it. I've long thought that, it'd be so much nicer for people. Although I think clothing would be a better indicator there than the actual machine, simply because your muscles that you're working, I don't know if your machine can really tell you. Anyway.
Right.
What is the point here? All of that data, all of our fitness stuff might soon be tied to smarter machines, and being able to easily integrate that data would be nice. We'll see. Okay. Moving right along to new products. Couple new products out there. First up, for the IoT developer in your life,
T-Mobile. Yeah. You mentioned you have a new dev kit, but this one's even newer than that because it was just launched this week. It is T-Mobile's IoT developer kit. It's $99 a kit. That gives you a developer board with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. You can attach sensors. It's built on the Zephyr RTOS. You can build whatever you'd like. You get a connection to T-Mobile's LTE Cat-M network with a SIM card, good for 500 megabytes of data, which should be plenty for, a sensor-based device. So yeah, they're trying to get in on the jump starting of new products and prototypes that will work on their network and just make it easier and inexpensive for developers.
Yeah, and I like to throw in a little plug here. The fact that it uses Zephyr is another good indicator that Zephyr is a up-and-comer in the RTOS world. So my dev kit is the Everactive dev kit. This is a dev kit associated with Everactive, which is a energy harvesting technology. So this is a sensor with a solar panel in it, and I'm going to be using it to track data. I'm going to do a formal review on it. It's coming out. It's actually now out there. It's really expensive. It is a $599 dev kit, and you have to actually use a promo code to get that price. But it started shipping this month, and I am going to test it out, and I'll write about what I've learned with it. And it's basically like no batteries, which is the kind of the benefit here is it's a sensor without batteries. So I can do all kinds of stuff and have it send data without ever having to change the battery, which is
as long as the sun keeps shining.
You'll be able to harness later like other types of energy harvesting. So like vibration and that sort of thing. Nice. But solar is good for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to other kind of new devices. Wyze has now launched a color changing BR30 light bulb. Man, when we started, remember how I got so excited when we got BR30s from Philips Hue?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. These are downlights. So if you have like can lights or anything like that, that's what a BR30 looks like. It's the A19 is the traditional light bulb form factor. So basically this is a cheap downlight. It's color. It's on the Wyze ecosystem, and a 2-pack will cost you $24 basically. A 4-pack will cost you $43.99, so $44.
I will say these are brighter than like the original Philips Hue bulbs. These are 950 lumens. Those were dim, yeah, but these are a smidge brighter, 950 lumens, and you get tunable white as well as up to 16 million colors if that's your thing. So,
yeah, I mean, my current house does not use can lights really, so I don't need any BR30s, but my old house had a bunch and I loved them. So not necessarily the Wyze ones, but just having colored lights in that form factor. It was very important to our dance parties.
Yeah, real quick, I just noticed this feature, and that's something that I like on some of the HomeKit bulbs that I use, some of the Philips Hue bulbs. Stay in sync with sun match, so it'll adjust the color temperature throughout the day for your colored lights, your whites. Nice.
Yeah, and we should mention that because I had a friend who asked me, they were like, I cannot get my lights to turn on brighter during the day, and I hate it. I was like, I asked if what kind of lights they were using, and they mentioned they had it on HomeKit. And I was like, hey, check and see if you have, what is HomeKit? It doesn't call it sun
adaptive.
Adaptive lighting. I was like, check if you have adaptive lighting turned on. And they did. And they were like, oh. So sometimes you want smart, sometimes you don't. Yeah. That's the moral. And you got to remember if you turn that on. That's where I think having the digital assistant is going to be more important than just voice. right? Other new devices. Firewalla. Firewalla has launched the Firewalla Purple SE. And this isn't for home users. This is for SMBs. Well, it is also for home. But basically, the Firewalla Purple SE gives you protection up to 500 megabits per second. So if you have like an internet connection that is less than that, this is a great option. And
this is like the junior version of the Purple that they sell for like $369, because that one supports up to 1 gigabit per second and gives you all the cybersecurity.
I have the Firewalla Purple.
Yeah,
You're right.
So this is the SE Special Edition or cheaper edition, however you want to look at it, because it's $219.
Yes, and you still have the same features of like notification when stuff happens. You have parental controls. You have the availability for ad blocking, a VPN.
VPN. I love having a VPN running at the home network. I love it.
Yeah, and you can do network segmentation. You see your bandwidth use. It's lovely.
Yep.
This is $219 and is going to be delivered in sometime between January and March. Just so y'all know, this is not something you should buy for Christmas if you want it to arrive in time.
Yeah.
But if you've got like lots of smart devices or someone who's really concerned about network security, a Firewalla is actually a pretty cool device. I know we've put it on previous gift lists. So
still good.
Still good. Yep. Okay. We are going to change it up a little since we don't have a guest this week, since we're focused on the guest list. We are going to take a message from our sponsor, and then we're going to go to our voicemail. So I know, get ready. Just stay awake, y'all. This week's sponsor is Arm. Hey everyone, we are taking a quick break from the Internet of Things podcast for a message from our sponsor. And this week's sponsor is Arm. And today we're going to be talking with Thomas Lorenzer, who is Director of General Purpose Compute, IoT, at Arm. Okay, so what is Arm doing in the IoT?
At Arm, we are focused sharply on empowering our partners and the software developer ecosystem to excel in unlocking the opportunities of the IoT. Essentially, we are focused on 3 key areas. Firstly, at Arm, the Arm ecosystem has the largest computational footprint on the planet. Our partners shipped over 29 billion Arm-based chips in 2021. Around 70% of these were designed for IoT and embedded applications. This computational footprint is rapidly evolving to match the workloads of tomorrow. Secondly, we believe rapid, innovative software development is key to the next phase of IoT. We are razor-focused on enabling developers for offerings like Arm Virtual Hardware. And finally, we are very committed to standardization initiatives driving the advancement of the IoT.
Excellent. Can you tell us a bit more about Arm's initiatives aimed at driving standardization where it matters in the IoT?
For example, at the IoT edge and endpoints, there's a very diverse set of use cases driving diverse set of requirements into IoT platforms, both from a hardware and software perspective. Software development requires an alignment across the software stack all the way up to the cloud. However, some of those software efforts are non-differentiating for our ecosystem partners. The standardization efforts of these non-differentiating aspects of the stack allow the ecosystem to reuse common parts while focusing their resources and energy on differentiation. Arm initiatives such as PSA Certified, Project Cassini, and Project Centauri were all designed to address these critical challenges that our partners are facing across security and software development to enable faster development at scale.
And how is Arm supporting efforts such as Matter?
As many of you will already know, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, which Arm has collaborated with for many years, recently released the Matter 1.0 standard and certification program. At Arm, we are very closely working with the Alliance to ensure that the Arm ecosystem is ready to support product developers in building these devices, including a project to explore the integration of Arm Virtual Hardware into the Matter CI/CD infrastructure. This will ensure that product developers can instantly access a scalable virtual test environment that maps directly to the wide ecosystem of IoT computing platforms. Stay tuned for more developments in this area.
Excellent. So where can I go to find out more about Arm?
Read our latest blog on arm.com/IoT-standards for more information. This is arm.com/IoT-standards.
And now it is time for the Internet of Things podcast Hotline. That's right. It's the segment of the show where we hear from y'all. We take your questions and hopefully answer them. And if you call us to submit a question for the month of November, you're going to be entered to win a set of Twinkly's lights. That's right. I love these things. They're Bluetooth connected light bulbs that I keep year round up in my tree. So give us a call at 512-623-7424 and you will be entered to win. You've got to enter before November 30th at midnight Eastern. Call us, ask us your questions. This week's IoT Podcast Hotline is sponsored by Silicon Labs. Silicon Labs' Wi-Fi portfolio is designed specifically for the IoT, where multi-protocol, RF performance, ultra-low power consumption, and fast time to market are critical. You can learn more about Silicon Labs' low-power Wi-Fi hardware, software, tools, and dev kits at scilabs.com. And now it's time to hear this week's voicemail, which surprisingly is not about Matter.
And even more surprisingly is the second week in a row, it's not a voicemail.
Oh, that's right. This week it is an email. And we're doing this because it's the holidays and it seems hugely appropriate. And also it's an issue I've struggled with. So this email is from John. Here, why don't you play John today?
I will play the part of John. Okay. So John says, around Halloween and Christmas, we always have a number of battery-powered LED lights. They usually have 2 or 3 batteries in a small switched unit. We have these around the house, and every evening before my goodnight command to Madam A, I frustratingly have to go around turning them all off. I pretty much got them all using rechargeable batteries, so I can just switch them out regularly without much fuss. Okay, that makes sense. Here's the question. Is there anything out there that you know of that could be used to replace the battery pack and allow me to add these various lights to our goodnight routine? I have IKEA bulbs and switches and usually use voice commands via our Echo Dot.
All right, my Welsh friend. He's from Wales.
Yes.
So I have this issue too. And in fact, I stopped using these things because it became so frustrating. I was like, oh, this sucks. But kudos to you for rechargeable batteries. So I was looking for some sort of electronic thing like you could buy on SparkFun that you could plug in to, like, basically you would replace your battery pack with, you would rip that out.
A corded.
Well, no, I thought you could, well, I was looking for like a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth thing that was also battery powered. But you could bring your LED leads into this thing and you would basically, like an SP32, you know, that you could then like have Wi-Fi capabilities. But that's stupid. That is way too much because these are like $10 to $20 light packs, or I hope they were $10 to $20 light packs. I actually bought some way back in the day for $50. It was crazy, but I loved them. Anyway, but I never use them because they're a pain because of this exact reason. Okay, so here's what you can do, and you're not going to like this. I think you're going to have to get rid of your existing light packs. And I'm sorry to say that. But nowadays, if you really love them, you can buy, and this is the jankiest solution, but bear with us. You can buy these light switches or these LED light strips that now have a Bluetooth controller, which is what my child actually uses in their room. They have 2 sets of these lights. I think they were like $13 a strand, and there's a Bluetooth controller and they're powered by USB. So same thing with your rechargeable batteries, right? You just swap the batteries out to keep power. And then you've got this little remote control that talks to them via usually USB. Oh, sorry. I said USB. I meant Bluetooth. Bluetooth. It talks to them via Bluetooth. Sometimes it's proprietary, but a lot of times it's just Bluetooth. So if you do that, then you have options.
Plan B. I mean, if you want to replace the lights, well, maybe you don't want to,
Wait,
but if you do,
I haven't finished my option.
Hold
on, man.
Okay.
See, so now you've got a remote control. But let's say you want to voice control that. Was that what your plan B was? The voice control?
That's my plan B.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Well, okay.
Well, maybe it's slightly different. I was thinking if it may make sense to just replace the lights and have them with a plug. Now, that may be a hassle because maybe you have these lights in places where there's no outlets.
Yeah, you got to put it in your wreath on your door. Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. But you don't want to plug it.
Okay. I mean, if you want to stay totally unplugged, I was just thinking, and a simple basic smart plug that works with Madame A would do the trick.
Yeah, John's wife is never going to go for that. I mean, the aesthetics.
Well, do you think she'll go for plan C?
Okay, here's plan C. Your plan B was not was not my plan B. Now you've replaced your lights and you have the Bluetooth controller. And that controller is powered by a different type of switch than the traditional battery packs. I know my battery packs have a little tiny kind of embedded switch that you flip back and forth. But if you have the remote control, then you can set it up with a $29.99 device called a SwitchBot. And then the SwitchBot, based on your voice command, will press the remote button on your Bluetooth remote, thus turning your lights on and off. You probably want a toggle button.
I figured Plan C was a SwitchBot bot.
Yeah.
$30.
$30. So now you've replaced all of your lights, because that is part of this, for one with a Bluetooth controller, and you spent $30 on a SwitchBot. But now you can talk to it, or I don't even want to give you credit for a smart plug. No.
Oh.
Okay, I'll give you credit, but
I mean, it is old school thinking in 2022. Yes, I agree with you. And it may not be ideal, because your example of the wreath on the front door, sure, you want battery powered.
Or I weave it through garland and stick it on my holiday table. You just can't have a cord hanging off of that.
People do, but you're right.
No, they don't.
Oh, plenty do, trust me.
The aesthetics. Okay. So that's your options there. The other final thing I'll say to you, hey, if wireless power, which I think is going to be kind of coming out in 2023, we're going to see a lot more options there, because the FCC this last year just gave a lot of approvals to companies. We're actually going to possibly get there in like a year or two, where we can buy these things with actual wireless power in them, like over the air wireless power, not just a Qi conductive charger. And then that changes the game entirely. So either wait, janky SwitchBot, or accept cords. I'm really sorry, John. All right. That is our disappointing answer for John. If you would like us to give you an answer that may or may not be disappointing, give us a call at 512-623-7424. And you will also be entered to win the Twinkly lights, which, by the way, are corded. Okay. Now it is time for the 2022 Holiday Gift Guide. Fa la 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 la.
I didn't know singing was part of it.
I know. Kevin's like, I'm hanging up right now. Every year we do a gift guide. We try to use all of the devices in our gift guide. So these are kind of a random assortment of things that we've used and liked throughout the years. We don't love to double up on things, simply because, like, I still recommend, by the way, giving people you love the Ember coffee mug. My mom still loves it. I gave it to her in 2019. It still works. She uses it literally every day. I cannot believe it. So that's a great gift. But we didn't include it on this week's gift guide because I included it in 2019. So let's talk presents. I guess we'll go with the cheaper ones first, because some of these are kind of crazy expensive. I'll be honest. IoT devices are not cheap.
IoT devices are not cheap in general, but yeah. So let's see. What's our least expensive?
I got a $39.95. All right. Starting off strong with $39.95. This is the Eve Energy Smart Plug. There's a couple devices on the list that I put on there because Matter is now a thing, and you no longer have to worry about what the heck people have in their homes if they're going to have Matter stuff and they have the basic smart home controllers like Google or Apple or Amazon or Samsung Smart Things. So I really thought we should put some of these devices, because now you could just buy a smart plug for someone. You can't actually buy Matter smart plugs right now that are going to be openable on Christmas Day and will work, unless you buy the Eve Energy. So this is a $39.95 smart plug. It's kind of pricey for a smart plug. They usually are like $10, but
it's a good one.
It's a good one, and it has Matter.
As of December 12th, it will have Matter with a software upgrade, correct?
Yes.
And I can't wait to get it on mine.
And it will act as a thread border router, which means if they add more stuff to their smart home with Matter, it's going to help like make a more reliable and robust network.
Yeah.
I'm throwing that in there because everybody loves smart plugs, and this is a really good smart plug. And, if you can wait and you don't want to give them a Christmas present, then, you'll be able to buy cheaper Matter-based smart plugs later. I think some of the first ones, the Meros ones, will come out in January, and they're going to be like $15 a plug, I think, $20 a plug.
Yeah, maybe 20, because there was an early sale on them, but they were inexpensive for the first 500 people. But
got it.
Yeah. And just to point out, the Eve has always supported HomeKit, Apple HomeKit only. With Matter, that will be changing. So it's not like you couldn't buy these for somebody who uses Google or Amazon as their smart home.
Yeah. So other devices in this price range $50 device. You want to talk about it?
If it's the Philips Hue tactile switch that I mentioned on the show earlier, yes.
Yes.
Because I love it. And I think it's great. A bit of a downside here. You have to be giving this to somebody who has a Philips Hue bridge, because without it, this really isn't going to do anything. It's basically works with the Philips Hue ecosystem. But for somebody who does have that, or maybe you really like them and you get them a Hue bridge and some bulbs, this is so super handy. I mean, I use mine every single day. As I said, it's on my office desk. I sit down at my desk. I press a button, have a different scene depending on how I feel. I rotate the dial to make it dimmer or brighter. I long press to shut the lights off when I leave. It's really useful and not terribly expensive, $50 for what it does. If you want to, you can wall mount it. There's an included plate. It magnetically attaches. The switch attaches to the plate, but I just have it sitting here as a rotating kind of 4-button dial on my desk.
Yeah. Good option. Next up is a popular option. People always want this. We get so many questions asking about, my God, rebooting your router.
Oh, that's on my section. Yes.
Yeah.
It's on my section because we bought the $55 rebooter from ConnectSense. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It will reboot your router. A lot of people ask us, hey, my internet's down at home. I need to reboot my router. I'm not at home. How do I do that? Well, if your internet's down at home, you can't, because you can't connect to it to reboot it. This kind of resolves that problem. It's very, I'd say, old school in how it works, but basically this is like a 16-inch extension cord. And you plug your router into one end and you plug the cord, the rebooter cord, into power. So it passes power to your router. In the middle of it, however, is both a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi module. And basically that module is always checking to see if your home network and your home ISP are up and running. When they're not, the rebooter will literally shut the power down to your router for a few minutes and then reboot it in hopes of it was a temporary outage or a glitch or something, and boom, you're back up and running. You can manually reboot your router using the ConnectSense app. You can schedule reboots with this, but we put it on here because it's not too expensive and because people keep asking, how do I remotely reboot my router when I'm away from home?
Yeah, so this is our answer to y'all. And now we're going to get into slightly more expensive. Oh, wait, we got one that's under $100, but just barely.
Under 100. What is that?
So the Nanoleaf Lines Squared devices. This is $99.99. So we actually have the lines, the Nanoleaf lines, on last year's gift list. And we usually put something by Nanoleaf on there because I love them so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they come out with something really good every year, to be honest.
And these are just like glowing light bars, and they're pretty cool. But for a while, this is why we talked about dodecahedrons, I bet.
Yes.
They basically had 60
degree angle connectors.
Yeah. So now for $100, you can use 90-degree connectors and get a couple lines too.
Yeah, it comes with their rhythm module that can listen to music and sync the lights to, a movie soundtrack, just general music that you're playing. The $99.99 doesn't get you much. It's literally just 4 lines. You can make a square or a plus sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, they have the extender packs and so on. If you want to go hog wild, you can do that. So.
Yeah. And again, Best Buy has a Black Friday deal on Nanoleaf Lines starter kits. So the starter kits are $200, which is not a crazy amount. And that's 9 light lines plus the module.
All the connectors, the rhythm module. Yeah.
So these are fun for teenagers, for people who like to have cool setups around their house. I don't know. I love mine. Okay. Moving right along.
To the pricier products that Stacy ended up putting on the list for some reason. I went El Cheapo, but.
Yeah. What can I say? I'm fancy. A lot of these are variable. So we're just going to be like more than $200, but not the priciest thing on the list. So more than $200. I'm going to tell you about.
Oh, no, you have one that under $200.
Oh, I do. I have a couple under $200. Sorry.
Yeah.
More than $100. There we go. I have a bunch that are less than $200. Okay. So speaking of buttons, Kevin was all about the Hue buttons. But what if your person doesn't have Hue lights? Or what if they have Hue lights and they have the Nanoleaf lights and they have Lutron lights and they have other lights? Well, I've got an answer for you. The Flick the Flick 2 buttons. Starter kit starts at $169.99. I'm hoping there'll be a sale, but that gets you 3 Bluetooth-based buttons plus a hub, and the hub gives you Bluetooth to Wi-Fi. So that means the buttons will work even if they're not near your phone. Because if you just have the buttons, they're going to like work through your phone, which is a subpar experience if you're controlling the smart home. So these buttons give you 3 options per button. They integrate with IFT, Sonos, Slack, Madame A, HomeKit. And
Slack. What would I do on there? Put an emoji?
well, if your Slack moves, like you could press the button and move your Slack to do not disturb.
Oh, okay.
See?
Okay.
See? This is
Or just close Slack entirely, but that's just me.
well, let's say you're running down.
No, you're right.
You're running
right.
down to like answer the doorbell. I don't know. You could
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. The point is it works with lots of devices, and you can go to the website and see all the different apps it works with. And this is just for tactile people who like pressing buttons, like me. And the best part is once you get them this, later on, you can get them more buttons at $29.99 each. Yay! Which is kind of pricey, but you know, there's packs that bring that price down. Other things in this price range, a smart dog collar, the Fi Series 3 dog collar. I reviewed this. I like it. It's a little bit weird though. And I say this because it's a connected collar that comes with a subscription fee. It's $192. That gets you a 1-year subscription and the collar. And there's also a $20 activation fee. So basically for $212 for a year, the person is going to have a dog collar that tracks their dogs. It also tracks your dog's steps and stuff like that, sleep, etc. But the big value is that if your dog gets lost, you can turn on real-time tracking. And it has cellular and GPS for this, and you can see where they are. I also really like the fact that the collar has an LED on it, and it gets dark at 4:30 here, and we walk our dog in the dark. And you can turn on the light. And I like if my dog gets lost, we can turn on the light while we're tracking them, and maybe a car won't run over them. So anyway, the point is we love our animals. If you have someone who loves their animal, this is a great gift and it works really well. Let's talk about cooking.
Well, and again, there's a slight difference here because Stacy wanted to put the Meter smart thermometer block, which is a 4-pack of smart thermometers. The block itself is a Bluetooth repeater. This is $369.95.
And Wi-Fi.
Oh, and Wi-Fi. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. My bad. However, we purchased the single pack Meter Plus smart thermometer, which is only $99.95. They do the same thing. It's just a 1-pack versus a 4-pack, right? The 4-pack is handy because maybe you have multiple meats or dishes that people need heated to different degrees. Maybe somebody wants a rare steak and somebody wants a well-done steak. You would need more than one thermometer.
And it has the integrated controls in the block.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The block itself is more functional. The 99.95 Meter Plus that I tried just is a plain old block to recharge and repeat the wireless signals. This is really nice. Now, we have a June oven, and that has a built-in thermometer probe, and we use that a lot. And technically, this company Meter, they were bought by Traeger. Traeger makes grills. This is really intended for the grilling audience because it has a 165-foot range. So you put your food on the grill with the thermometer in there, the Meter Plus, and you can see in the app the temperature of the meat, the internal temperature. You can see the ambient temperature outside of the food you're cooking as well. It will predict how long your food will take to be cooked yet, and it will even alert you when there's just 5 minutes left, so you know it's time to go out to the grill. Having said that, I don't have a grill, but I did test this in the June oven, tested it in a regular oven, tested it in a skillet where we were frying up some meats. It worked fine in all of those devices, so it's not like it only works for grills. I really like the app, the interface, and the range of this thing. Not that I need it, because again, I don't have a grill, but if I did, that was far away. Man, this is the range is all throughout my house, which is awesome.
Yeah, so it's a nice gift for anyone who likes to cook. Either you can go for I won't call it the lower end, the functional, probably less fancy version.
Yeah.
But if you really want to wow someone who loves to cook, that block is pretty cool. And now I feel like we got to leave you something to open the newsletter with. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to save our most expensive and some of our other gifts for the newsletter. There's only 3 more. And we gave you some bonuses too, like, hey, if someone needs connected kettlebells, you know where to go, or that Ember mug, still a great gift. Any other final gift ideas? Do you want to tell us what you're getting Barb this year?
We don't share gifts. I'm a minimalist. I tell everybody don't buy me anything because anything that comes into the house has to replace something that goes out of the house. So yeah, sorry.
And yet he reviews devices for a living. This poor man. All right. So we hope that you have had an excellent Thanksgiving. Or Thursday. Both, all of the above, depending on your celebration. Next week, we're going to be having our 400th show. Are we doing anything special? Not at the moment, but who knows? I also want to say we're super grateful for all of our listeners. And if you subscribe to the newsletter, also grateful for that too. And Kevin and I have been doing this now, as the IoT podcast, we've been doing it since 2015. And then before that, we were podcasting since 2013. So we're coming up on 10 whole years of doing this together. So thank you so much for allowing us to have a good time every week. And that concludes this week's episode of the Internet of Things podcast. Please join us next Thursday and don't forget to subscribe. And if you can't get enough IoT news, I would love for you to sign up at www.stacyoniot.com for our weekly IoT newsletter, where we explain all kinds of things that we don't even get to on the show. Once again, thank you for listening and please subscribe.